like 6 times. Actually, probably more than that. So, my name is Dennis Tay, and I do violate a lot of presenter rules. You'll see that I have something in my hand most of the time, as I drink a lot, dry out. And I do like my coffee in the morning. Anybody else like coffee in the morning? And, Joy, what happened with that request you had earlier?
It went away. Non-important bid. My non-important bid.
So how many, there's like, what, 55 people in here or something, just by guessing. That's right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for showing up.
Yeah, this is
awesome.
amazing. You guys are awesome. And she said you were voluntold to be here? No, you actually volunteered to be here, right? Good. So anyway.
It's a requirement to be here.
Was it a requirement to be here?
No. I thought it was.
So, like she said, my name's Dennis Tate, and I don't have my name tag on, but you hopefully remember that. Pretty simple. I work at the school bus safety unit in Topeka through the Department of Ed. So for those of you that don't know what we do, our unit is comprised of 4 people. The director, who is Keith Dreiling, me, who's the assistant director, and then Melissa, who's a trainer. Any of you remember Melissa? Ms. Losmeyer, she's been here? No? Okay. And then Sarah, who's our administrative assistant. And basically, anything to do with transporting students in the state of Kansas, that's our job. So we deal with the regulations, either federal, state laws, best practices, all those things when it comes to transporting students. We do the best we can in getting out to all 286 school districts, but it doesn't happen all that often. So we usually have about 50 to 60% of the districts that we know well and get out and visit with. We do trainings, obviously, I'm here, and the things that I train are basically, I'm a AAA defensive driving instructor trainer, so there's only like 60 of those in the whole world. And then I do CPR first aid, obviously. I do child seats, and I do wheelchair securement training. And on top of all that, I do emergency evacuations, smoke bus. Those are a lot of fun. And about anything else that you might need training on, we can do that. So, that being said, my background, I've been there for about 11 years. I just started my 11th year in October. And before that, I did 29 years on the Kansas Highway Patrol as a state trooper. I retired as a lieutenant, working out of the Topeka office for the Turnpike. So, supervising about 11 guys out there. So, my background is in regulation, is in law, and traffic law, and obviously child seats was one of those things. So, when I started with the Department of Ed, like I said, I was out on the Turnpike. So when I retired, I came to work for the Department of Ed because nobody can afford to live on retirement now. So you gotta go back to work and you gotta get the health insurance again and all that stuff. And so I came back to work for the state, and because I was out on the Turnpike, I had to let my CPST, Child Passenger Safety Technician, expire because they didn't let us do car seat inspections and that kind of stuff out on the Turnpike. That we just basically worked that one stretch of road and that was it. So we weren't allowed to do any real specialty things out there. So I got back into the class, got recertified as a technician, and then shortly after I became a technician, at that point, there wasn't anybody in the state of Kansas that had the additional NHTSA certification for school bus specific child seats. So twist my arm, they said, we've got this national training, which is an 8-hour all-day-long training to become an instructor on how to teach school bus specific seats in Long Beach, California. So I went to Long Beach, twist my arm. So and it wasn't, there was definitely not a vacation, believe me. But anyway, good training, and I've been through the same 8-hour course 3 times since then. So that was in 2015, and so I've been through that same course 3 times. And I've been asked to help with it some, but it doesn't fall with the Department of Ed allowing me to travel out of state all the time. So I don't get to do as much of that helping with the training itself as I used to. But anyway, what you're gonna find when we do this class, and like I said, this is a fairly long PowerPoint, and I will move through it quickly as I can. Your job is to ask questions, right? Interrupt me. You know, I want to keep this informal. I want everybody to feel comfortable asking questions. Anybody in here, it's easier to go this way. Anybody in here not transporting preschoolers?
Not preschoolers?
Preschoolers. Okay, anybody in here not transporting wheelchairs? Okay, I knew that was the guy. So, we'll go the other way. Who's transporting preschoolers? Okay, that's what I thought. We have a bigger crowd of preschoolers. Yeah. Most of the time, this is what this is geared toward, is preschoolers, this class, right? We'll touch a little bit on special needs. We'll touch a little bit on evacuations, those kinds of things before we're done. But with that being said, you guys ready to get started? I've talked enough about myself. Now I get to talk about child seats. Oh, you guys haven't been through a class with me before, right? So I've been using this a lot lately because I love this video. And it doesn't have anything to do with child restraints.
I assume all of you know what Alexa is, right? So Toyota just announced that they're adding Alexa to their cars so you can control things with your voice. It's supposed to be convenient and helpful. Here's their commercial.
Starting this year, Toyota and Lexus luxury models will come with Amazon Alexa.
Turning on AC.
Finally, a virtual assistant to help you navigate.
Nearest gas station in 1.5 miles.
And to help maintain your vehicle.
Alexa, order more brake pads.
Ordering new brake pads, although maybe if you didn't stop so close to the car in front of you. Drive too aggressively.
Just quiet for 2 seconds, 2 seconds.
She'll talk to you literally the entire time you're driving.
I think you should have turned back there.
Hi, you know why I pulled you over? No, officer,
Because we were driving 72 miles per hour. 2 miles back, we rolled through a stop sign without furniture. Also, there are illegal fireworks in the trunk.
Amazon Alexa.
Leave it to Ellen and her crew to come up with that. I just think that's hilarious. So I play it a lot and I get people relaxed and laughing. So you notice I got a lot of stuff up here, and we're probably going to put hands on all of it. So that's why it's here. But anyway, the reason we're here, why we're here. School buses are transporting smaller children all the time. The young children, the young ones, the preschoolers, that's why I asked about preschoolers. We'll talk about compartmentalization and how that does and does not work for preschoolers. And then they should be, best practice is that they should be in a child restraint system, preschoolers should be. And do you guys have Head Start routes? Any Head Start kids? You do?
I think, or I guess it's preschool, is it?
Yeah, preschool probably. Because you know if you had Head Start, because they've got a whole bunch of federal regs that you have to follow that we don't even
yeah.
talk about, and they've got to be buckled in, all these things. So
Oh.
Head Start's a whole different animal,
Okay.
and they have a whole bunch of different rules.
Okay.
And so we kind of stay away from that. Like Jennifer Lawrence, and I don't know if you've met Jennifer or not, from Salina, that's what she does. She's a Head Start transportation director for Salina, and they've got a whole, she's got like 4 buses, and that's all they do is transport Head Start kids.
Oh, okay.
So I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that she shares with us. But anyway, we've come a long ways. So that is a real ad from 1961. Out of the Sears and Roebuck catalog. Everybody remember Sears and Roebuck? No? Yeah. $1.88. You too can have straps to wrap around your child. It's okay if they stand up and look out the window. So we've come a long ways, but this is definitely not the direction we went for child restraint. So like once again, somebody say something? I'm sorry, I heard my name. No? Okay. School bus occupant protection systems. So we're going to talk about the school bus itself and how it's set up to be occupant protection friendly. Challenges for providers. So we're going to talk about the challenges that you have transporting these young children. The issues we have with child restraint systems on school buses. So if you hear me say CSRS or CRS, child restraint systems, that's what we're talking about. Anything to do with child restraints, those are the two abbreviations. Apologize for that. Proper installation on a school bus, evacuation techniques. That's what we're going to do today. So we're also going to cover state regulations. We're going to cover some federal regulations and some national standards. National standards gets confusing to people, but basically by state law, Kansas has adopted the national standards on school busing. So anything to do with that school bus in the national standards, we have to abide by it. So it basically is our secondary law. So
are
what
the
is a school bus?
federal,
Go
are the
ahead.
federal standards and the national standards different?
Yes. So federal motor vehicle safety standards, we're going to talk about them a lot, is actual federal law. And the national standards is a document that is put together by the school bus industry that is done, we meet every 5 years. We're getting ready to go in May. In May we're going to meet, and it's run just like any political Congress is. I mean, we have delegates. We're going to be the Kansas delegates. There's like 6 of us. And every state has representation there. So something as simple as the color. So yellow school bus, tried and true. One of the reasons it's safe, because it's the most recognizable vehicle on the roadway. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it is the most recognizable vehicle on the roadway, period. That school bus yellow color will never change. School bus yellow is not in federal motor vehicle safety standards. School bus yellow comes from national standards, where the school bus industry decided many, many years ago that we wanted to paint the buses yellow, and they needed to all be yellow, and so that's in national standards. So that's where, it's just an example of where some of that comes from. So specifications like, simple things like the seat spacing, all that stuff comes from federal motor vehicle safety standards. But if you have an exhaust system and you do it differently, that comes from national standards. It's very confusing. And, you know, even in all those years in law enforcement, I've dealt with federal regs and all that stuff, and then I come to work for school bus safety unit and they go, well, we got the national standards too. I go, what the heck is national standards? It's the same thing, right?
Yeah,
I don't understand this.
it's
What is
the
it?
same.
And so I had to learn all about the national standards, and it's, gee, many Christmas, the printed book's that thick. And so, did I learn it all? No, but I know how to use, we put the PDF version, everybody knows what Control F means. So I need to find a term, it's Control F and search for it. So, anyway, back to this real quick. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I have a question and it's not for this. So
No
you
problem.
said preschool age kids, but what if I have a kindergartner that is
Yeah.
the size of a preschooler? Is that
Exactly.
the same?
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah,
it go by?
it has to do with the
go by
size of the
grade?
child.
Okay.
That's a very good point. So we talk about preschoolers because, and we'll talk about it in a minute when I talk about compartmentalization, but yeah, those measurements that we use are all designed for bigger kids. They used an average, the average kindergartner, the average first grader, up to high school when they made those specifications, those engineered guidelines for school buses.
Okay.
So that's where we get the compartmentalization measurements. There's a slide in here, we can talk about that. So what is a school bus? Why is it important that you know whether you've got a school bus or not? Anybody? It makes a difference in which one of these seats you use. Because you can't use a star seat. Are you guys familiar with the star seat? Everybody here seen one of those before?
Yes.
Star seat. This whole table right here is all star seats. All IMMI is the manufacturer of the star seats. They're the workhorse. You see more of them than any place else, anything else. I'm not sure why. There's 3 brands. But anyway, they're called school bus specific seats. So they're only allowed to be used in school buses. You cannot take this star seat and put it in a van, put it in a car. You're not allowed to do that. They haven't been crash tested for that, and you can't do it. So when you run into something like this, the white one down here, is that a school bus or is that
It's a trip bus.
it's an activity bus, right? In Kansas, we define that as an activity bus. So even by federal motor vehicle safety standards, it's not a school bus because it doesn't have 8 ways and it doesn't have a stop arm. Okay? And it doesn't say school bus across the top. Technically, if you didn't adopt national standards across the state, this would be a school bus if it had the 8 ways and a stop arm. Way out of your realm. the bottom line is that if that is a, when you go and look at the tag that says the passenger rating, the gross vehicle weight rating, all that stuff, at the very top of it, it will say school bus. Or it will say this is not a school bus. So you need to know that before you put these seats in a vehicle. You need to know that it's a school bus, because they're not allowed to be on anything but a school bus. So, can you have one of these minis that doesn't have school bus seats in it? Yeah, you gotta be really careful with what you're doing. When they're an activity bus, yes. If they're a yellow bus, no. Okay, and this is, I do this all the time. People are like, really? You gotta tell us the difference between a school bus and a van? Between a bus and a van? Yeah, we do. You can thank First Student Wichita for this, because we didn't know it was a problem. They brought it to our attention because we had a surprise test on the competition at conference. It asked if you transported students in a 15-passenger van, which is illegal, by the way. And all the First Student people failed the test. They said, yes, we do transport in 15-passenger vans, which got our attention because it's illegal to do so. So we pulled them aside and said, well, we don't understand why you guys all failed this question. And they said, well, we do it all the time. This yellow bus, they were calling it a van. Their terminology, they called it a van. And the other thing you'll know about these vans is that they're on the title, it says van, because it started its life as a van. The chassis underneath that is a van chassis. So they build a school bus on top of a blank frame, the chassis, and then turn it into a Collins or a microbird or whatever. So it starts out as a van. So when you get the title, it says van on it. And so, like board clerks and stuff are really confused when they do like the 18E and stuff. They don't. I'm like, what? It's a van? No, it's a bus. So the definition of a bus. It's easy. Step well, service door, raised floor. Those three things have to be present before it is considered a bus. Now, it doesn't make it a school bus, it just makes it a bus. Okay? A van has a cargo door or a slider on the side and no stairwell. Okay? So that's the difference between a bus and a van. So it makes a big difference when it comes to all the rules and regs involving transporting students. Go ahead.
So you're saying we can't use a 15-passenger van and transport students?
Correct. It's illegal.
You cannot?
If it's illegal.
15-passenger van. That's why that
Right,
slides up
white
there.
vans.
Right. Van, white van. Yeah, they're illegal.
But if they're illegal, why do they have them?
I know.
Huh? Oh, everybody else can use it.
All
You can put all this, you can put all the teachers in it you want. You just can't put students in it. Yeah, they're not illegal to own, they're illegal to transport students in. And I can guarantee you, look at Kathy back there, you guys are not transporting students in 15-passenger vans.
No, we are not. We don't own any 10-passenger vans.
15-passenger vans, yeah.
Or, yeah, 15.
Yeah.
All of ours are 10 passengers.
And the reason we say 15 all the time.
10 passengers?
Yeah.
I'm sweating over here.
Big van.
You're in trouble, Jeff. Gotta lose your license after this
What's
class.
the difference between, why is it okay to do 10 packs but not
Really
all?
walk. I drive one every day.
That's a good question, and we'll, kind of getting off the topic here, but this is all fun stuff to talk about, and I love talking about it. I don't know if you guys remember back 1999, I think 98, 99, somewhere in there, the school bus world, transportation of students, was on national news a lot. I don't know how many children we killed in those 2 years due to rolling vans. And they had 15s and 12s, those longer wheelbase, right? And the manufacturer was not, they were to blame, no doubt. But what the problem was is that if you think about a 15-passenger van, you load that down, because we all do, right? If you're gonna let me put 15 kids on a van, I'm gonna put 15 kids on a van because I need to be efficient. And then, oh gosh, we're gonna put their golf clubs behind the seats, or whatever, and now they're heavy. And then the weight is off balance. And they did I think it was 2020, somebody did a thing, and they had professional drivers out on a course. They'd load the van down like they were supposed to be, and they would just do a slalom, and they could not keep the thing from rolling. And they're professional drivers, trained to keep it from rolling, and they could not keep them from rolling. They rolled several vans to prove there was a problem. So federal government, the Federal Department of Education, the federal motor vehicle safety standards, all that stuff got changed, all because we were killing kids. So, have they changed the way they build them? Probably, right? I mean, I'm sure they got sued a lot. So, have they changed the way they built them? Yeah. Has the law changed? No. So, now they don't make the 10-passenger van anymore. That's a whole other story. So if you go to buy something that's a 10-passenger, you have to have it built for you, which is expensive. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's the story about 10 passengers, 15 versus 10. So, okay, so we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. No alternating flashing lights and no stop arm. That is an activity bus. It's not a school bus, even though it may be school bus yellow. Can you take a bus and turn it into an activity bus only? Sure. Can you put school bus specific seats on that? Sure. But if you got something that's built like this is basically a school bus that is white and has no lights or arm on it, but everything else about it is a school bus, the way it's built. Seating, windows, all that stuff. That is what we call a multifunction school activity bus. They're awesome because they hold up in a crash so much better than, and I don't have a picture of one of the, you've seen the MCIs and the, you know, the old E-coaches and stuff like those Freightliners.
Like the one we were just buying.
Are you buying one? They crush like tin cans if you roll them. These, if you roll one of these, you can drive it home, usually. They're tanks. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? You guys done talking about buses? Now we're going to talk about the stuff inside buses. Here's the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. And really, if you're one of those people and like to read stuff like this, and I even get bored with it sometimes, and I like this stuff, but that's the list of all the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards that are involved in what we're talking about today. Every single one of them. So the seating. Here's one we run into a lot. 209, 208, and 222. Those are the three that keep you from buying a bus, having no seat belts on that school bus, and then deciding that you want to put seat belts on the school bus. And so you go out there, your mechanic goes out there and takes the seat up and drills holes in it and bolts seat belts into it. That's against the law. You can't do that. And those standards are the reason that that is that way. So, all those seats have to meet, and if you go to reading it, you can lose your mind because it talks like they're engineered. It's an engineer language. I mean, it stresses, in pounds per inch, square inch, that kind of thing. It's a lot of it. So what we're going to deal with mostly today is 213. That's the child restraint systems that go into the school bus. But because we're talking about child restraint systems, we also have to talk about seat belts. So that's why we're here. So, compartmentalization described. Compartmentalization. I don't know if you've heard the term before or not. Has anybody ever had to explain it to a parent? Why don't you have seatbelts on your school bus? Kathy's like, yeah, a couple, 3 times a year at least, especially at the beginning of the school year, right? So, that's the reason we don't have seatbelts on school buses. Compartmentalization. So, this is all in Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 222. This measurement, this is the maximum from the hip axis to where the knees would touch the seat in front of you. It cannot be more than 24 inches. The seat back has to be at least 24 inches tall. And that has changed. What do seat backs measure now? I don't even remember. I haven't measured one in a long time. We can measure this real quick. But anyway, that's what Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards say. Then you look at the next one. I mean, this is the definition, a generic definition of compartmentalization. Basically, energy absorbent seat backs, narrow spacing in the school bus creates a compartment in which the occupant is confined really well for a front and rear end collision. The trick there is front and rear end collisions. So here's a diagram of how it works. Basically, the occupant goes forward, strikes the seat back of the seat in front of them. That's made out of spring steel. It allows them to do a ride down. So they ride down, slow down, and then they just come back and sit back in their seat. It works. It's worked for years. It is one of the reasons school buses are the safest form of land transportation in the world. also why we don't have a law that requires seat belts or seat belts to be used on a school bus, because of compartmentalization. So that's what it's all about. We're going to talk about this a lot, and I'm going to swing back to this slide, so kind of visualize this slide, because it has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about today. So, does compartmentalization work? Some of you have probably seen this video before. The bus driver does the best he can. He's going to get to the right as fast as he can, but doesn't do enough.
Oh my God.
The 3 people in the car were killed instantly.
Oh my God.
And the 4 students that were on the bus, 2 were treated for minor injuries. One of the injuries, there's something that falls. You'll see it fall out of the stairwell. So something flew forward, and that's why we keep our eyes clear. See it there? And then she trips over it coming out, and she sprained her ankle. So she wasn't hurt in the crash. She was hurt getting off the bus. So, and the inside video of this, which I still haven't gotten, I've seen it because one of the people that taught the 8-hour class showed it. And I said, I need that video. There's video from inside that bus on this crash too. And there's an aide back there that is very lucky because she had just went across the aisle and dealt with a child, made sure they were sitting, and was coming back to her seat. And it just got in behind the seat and was about to sit down when the crash happened. So she got very lucky. She ends up going over the seat but didn't get hurt. It's a cool video to watch. So it's always cool to watch when the ones that people survive. But, the people in the car, not so much. Nobody knows why they went left to center. So, a little tidbit of information back to the seatbelts on school bus issue. If you have a bus that has a great gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds or less, you are required to have seatbelts on that school bus. Now, when you hear that 10,000 gross vehicle weight rating, you're like, well, I don't know what that is, right? It's on the plates on there. You don't own, I guarantee you don't own a bus that has a gross vehicle weight rating of less than 10,000 pounds. That would be a really, really small bus. So even the 14 passengers are running about 12, I think. So, and that's since October of 2011. So, vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating of over 10,000 pounds are not required to have seatbelt. They can occasionally be equipped with seatbelts if you ask for them, or if, here I'm just going to, anything manufactured after 2005, that's what I thought. Anything manufactured after 2005, which in Kansas we enforced that in 2007, because we give the manufacturers 2 years to comply, cannot be issued, cannot be sold to a Kansas school with lap belts only on it. That is a national standard. Back to the national standards, we adopt them straight across the board. National standard says since 2005 you cannot have lap belts only. The only way you can have lap belts only is like if you do the first couple rows, because you're going to put car seats in there. And that is okay. But think back to that compartmentalization slide and the way that works. And it's not that far back. I'll show you. If you secure this person's hips, only their hips and not their torso, and those seats are that close together, it causes them to jackknife. Number one, kids are notorious for not getting the lap belt on correctly. It rides up onto their belly usually, so they've got internal injuries. And then the only thing that hits that seat in front of them is their head and face and neck. So now we've got a lot of head and neck injuries. And they figured this out over the years and said, okay, no more lap belts on school buses. So that's what happens when you take something that they built, compartmentalization, to protect their kids, and then go, okay, we're going to add seat belts to it. Well, we got to think it all the way through, folks. So, now, have you taken delivery on a school bus that has lap belts only on it? Never? Okay. We've got several in the state that still do. They'll order them because, like, well, the board wants seat belts on the school bus, so we'll just order a bus. They're still on the bus purchasing program. You can still get them, even though it's illegal to have them, because some states don't use those national standards. So. Okay. Here's something about seat belts that most people don't realize. And we've got a couple of schools, and I want to say Holyrood, someplace in there, all their buses now are seat belts. And after she ordered her first two, she was like, I didn't realize this was going to be a thing. This poor guy, this bus driver, he's a guinea pig for, so this is a North Carolina video. And North Carolina buys the buses for the states, for the school district. So all the buses run through the state. They have their own program, they buy buses. You get an allotment, depending on your student population, you get an allotment so much money every year to replace the school bus. You can optionally get seatbelts on your school bus. You can see the first 2 rows have integrated seats in them. This is what we call integrated seats, right? That's an integrated seat. No seatbelts. This is a week before he gets his bus with seatbelts. You see that? Joy's back there laughing. But I always play the whole video because it's hilarious. This is what it looks like after you put seatbelts on. They say student discipline issues go way down. Way down. So child restraint systems on school buses. So stage 1, any kind of child restraint, is that forward-facing or rear-facing child seat that normally would be in a car that now you can put in a bus, if you've got seatbelts on that bus. So where we run into a problem, and some of you know where I was yesterday, I had one of the mechanics tell me that, oh, our mechanics just drill holes in the seat and put a lap belt on there so we could put this infant carrier in there. Yeah, okay. Well, good luck with that. You just took on all the liability and, boy, anyway.
They told you that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, because poor mechanic, he thought it was legit, you know, because his head mechanic told him to do it, so, that's no problem, big deal. So anyway, so, are you guys allowing the young ones on the bus? Like, you got a driver, are you guys allowed to bring your kids? So, how young?
No.
No limit, perfect, love it. So if you come off maternity leave, man, you can bring your child, perfect. So you're gonna have to put a rear-facing seat in that school bus. You gotta have seatbelts on the school bus to do that. No problem, right? Easy. How many of your buses have seatbelts on them?
A third, all the minis almost.
Almost all the
About a
minis,
third,
yeah.
maybe the big ones, maybe.
So, and we'll touch about it a little bit more in evacuations here in a minute, but it's a really good program. It's a really good thing. And those seats will fit on a school bus. Not all of them. I don't know if some of you got kids, some of you got young kids. Have you went to purchase a rear-facing or a convertible seat lately? I mean, I don't know. Some of them got stereos in them. I'm serious. It's just ridiculous. It's like, oh my gosh. I remember when the seats used to be basic stuff, and now it's more important about how many cell phones they have. You know? Like, oh, okay. Yeah, my cell phone holder. Yeah, I got my 4-year-old a free cell phone. So anyway. The stage 2 is what we're going to talk about is the forward-facing systems for a school bus. And then stage 3 obviously is just seatbelts only. So you're old enough to sit in the seat. She's 6 years old. I have no idea how much she weighs, but she fits into a seatbelt just fine.